Is that God?
Hey, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for sticking with us. I appreciate it. Our voiceover person stole my joke about we're in the Zeam scene here, but very excited here to introduce here Jack Perry, CEO of Zeam, a company that you are going to learn more about. And next to Jack doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, but John Stamos, we are so grateful
Thank you.
that
I'm
you
happy
came
to be here.
join us.
Thank you. Can you hear this? You hear? Okay.
And in addition to just hanging out at tech conferences, John is Chief Innovation Officer for Zeam. So again,
I wanted a better title. So that's why we're here today. If someone can come up with a better, after this thing, if you figure out a better title for me.
We're going to crowdsource.
I can't remember Chief.
We'll crowdsource a better title for
good.
you. All right, so we are going to get started. We're going to talk all about Zeam, but first we're going to set the scene here with a video that will sort of set the stage for how John Stamos came to be involved with this very pioneering streaming company. Let's roll the clip, and then we'll get into the convo.
Wherever you want to be, wherever you're from, wherever you're going,
Zeam is home. You can check the news, local sports, the weather.
Oh, that's cool. Weather in Sioux City?
In the next
I know her.
days, in fact.
Yeah, Cincinnati. Is that a sport?
it is a sport, it's football.
Football. Got it. So can I change the weather if I'm going there and I'm like, I don't like the weather in San Diego? Can Zeam do that?
Well, then you'd have to maybe Zeam somewhere else, but you'll know
You
ahead
can't
of time.
change the weather by this?
You can't.
Zeam is America. There, I said it. Where is that?
Binghamton, New York.
I've been there. Where's that?
Wausau, Wisconsin.
I can't even spell that.
It's a great place.
Nice tattoo. Oh, that's it, huh? Zeam.
Zeam.
That's how you spell Zeam?
Zeam.
Are you sure?
It is. I'm positive.
Z-E-A-M?
Yeah.
I was you played such a goof in that thing. It was pretty funny.
Very fun, very fun. And John, you wrote that bit. You actually wrote a longer bit, as I understand.
Well, we did. I met Jack and got introduced to Zeam when they had me do a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I did a thing where I was saying we don't need gimmicks. Zeam works so well by itself, and I'm sort of walking through, and there's, fire, and I'm in a pool, and I'm not trying to pander, but I was really pandering. And then after I got to know Jack on that shoot, I said, let's do something else, and we did like an 8-minute sort of a Christopher Guest style little 10-minute thing about the two of us and Zeam.
A little mockumentary action.
That's
there.
right.
Okay, gotcha. Well, since we've sort of whetted the appetite, Jack, tell us about just kind of the two poles of Zeam's business. Tell us when the company started, and then we really want to talk. You're doing some very cool stuff in the live event streaming space, but sort of set the table for us about what Zeam is and the two major poles of your business.
Sure. So I started Zeam in 2009 after I had sold my prior company, which wrote the authentication technology that sits between the satellite companies and the networks and all the local affiliates, and really just make sure you get the right local channels. And so I looked at that and thought, well, streaming is next.
Yeah, in 2009, not many of us were saying streaming is next. We were just trying to figure out how to work YouTube. So right there, that says that. And I just want to make sure everybody was clear. Like, he wrote the code that allowed satellite TV to work with broadcast TV. So right here, we've got a lot of important knowledge here.
Well, and I learned the value of local there, and that's where John and I really bonded in the beginning, is everybody is somewhere, they're from somewhere, they're going somewhere, there's things happening somewhere. So local news just made sense to lean in on that. And so we wrote the backbone to start streaming. We literally had no idea what the business model was going to be. But after about a year, we had 400 local TV stations on our backbone, and they were just streaming to themselves because there was no business figured out yet. So we built that, and we ultimately then helped take Paramount Plus, now known as Paramount Plus, live. And so when you're watching local on Paramount Plus, and we power lots on Hulu and Fubo and lots of platforms, it's our backbone that goes into those local TV stations, pulls the broadcasts out, and makes sure you can stream them.
That sounds simple, but it is not.
No, it's not. And when they asked me to do the commercial, I was like, "What is this Zeam? I don't get it." And it took me a while to sort of understand. Just talking like that, it's sort of broad. Right now we have an app on the phone, and we broadcast local news and sports from all over the country. So if you want to see what's going on in your hometown, whatever, you go there. And then we're doing some original programming, but we've really been kicking into the live situation.
Really leaning into live. So just Zeam.com. You can Zeam. You can go to Zeam.com and you can have a menu of local stations you can stream, and it's not geo-fenced at all. You can, if you want to know what's going on in Sioux City, Iowa, or Binghamton, New York, or wherever, or Buffalo, New York, where I used to live outside Buffalo. And boy, weather is important in Buffalo, New York, let me tell you. But so you do that, and you provide the architecture. You called it the backbone, the architecture that allows local stations to stream. And you also do things like the Grammy Awards, like big sporting events. So when
Super Bowl.
Right, Super Bowl. So when streamers are, when if there's a problem with a live stream that has, hundreds of millions of people coming to try to check it out, it's the engineers behind the scenes at Zeam that are making sure that big events like that stay up. So you have sort of that sort of almost wholesale where you provide the architecture for a lot of streaming where people don't see Zeam, you're behind the scenes. But now increasingly Zeam, with the help of a very innovative chief innovation officer, you're doing some original content, but you're doing it in a different way.
We should have had her do the commercial. That made more sense to me than what I did.
I studied up because I was interested, because again, somebody's saying that I was into streaming in 2009. That is way before anybody conceived that there was real business here.
So, local is the one constant. No matter what business models rise up, you're always going to need local news, weather, sports. So on that side, we're just going to make it brain dead simple to get all your local channels. And I don't care if it's the CTV companies or the streamers. You want local, come to us. We'll make it inexpensive and easy. From there, that's where we're starting to build, on the local original content side of things. We're pushing the envelope. We've done things as crazy as a ice fishing shanty in the middle of a national forest in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and live streaming, two people sitting in a shanty ice fishing, and we had people tuning in watching it.
When you think nothing's on, folks, ice fishing right there. But it is actually, it's a great example of almost like, is that something you kind of did to see if you could do it?
In part, yes, but we also, as John and I started more about the content opportunity, it was clear to us live is the next great frontier. And the more we can do live, the better. And so we've got Destination. John is leading on Destination Music.
Well, we have a studio in New York as well, right at close to Times Square, that we go in there. We were on tour with the Beach Boys a couple months ago, and I grabbed a few of the guys and said, let's go into the studio. We flipped a switch, and then we went on for an hour and just played acoustically, and it was really a special thing. So there's so much going on with Zeam. It is complicated. It's hard to wrap your head around, but I think there's so much opportunity there, especially as a creator and have a lot of creative friends. Almost all my friends that I've gone to want to get involved, are getting involved. We're signing deals with people. There's a young comic who I love, and we're going to do a live talk show with him, a late night sort of talk show. We're doing destination comedy where we take he's got a van too, a 360 van that goes live. We're doing music and we're doing comedy, and fishing. In a hole somewhere.
I think we're hitting as you know, there's some opportunity in late night. There's some openings for people. So Zeam the brand is going. Zeam the brand is kind of going more public now So now it is becoming more of a consumer-facing brand. Can you spell out exactly? So that obviously that takes you to a new level in terms of marketing and bringing the company. Can you sketch out those specifically what you did with the Destination Comedy event? Kind of explain it for the audience and explain why you did it and what you hoped it would represent for your capabilities.
Yeah, so I wanted to push the envelope on the technology. I wanted to get creative folks involved that had a network of their own that could then tell their friends to tune in and their contacts to tune in. And I wanted to try to live stream for 5 straight days, 24/7. And I said, when you go to bed at night, park the van so it can see a logo of any kind. I don't care what it is. It could be a Marriott logo.
It would be Adidas for you two.
Right. You could,
Look at this.
the next time we'll have it pointed at Adidas shoes.
We'll monetize this next time.
Because if you look, we have an ad technology that, since John came out of the flaming pool in our Super Bowl commercial, we've done maybe 7 billion ads that we've inserted into streams. We know that the advertising community is saying, hey, there's got to be something more, not just dynamic ad insertion, but what are the live branding opportunities we can participate in. So yes, when we unleashed the technology on a couple of comedians, we said, go out there and do everything that you possibly can do so we can then go on the next generation of this programming and bring in advertisers ahead of time that are not necessarily looking for dynamic ad insertion, but to be a part of it, to be a part of the destination comedy family.
Absolutely. And John, as I understand that when you this concept, you were like, this is tailor-made for touring comedians. Why? Why does this work? Why do you think this will work so well?
Well, it seems like, over the last 5 or 10 years, with social media, people have just really wanted to make us all human, which we are, and pull the curtain down and see, the Wizard of Oz thing. And so this really does that, for music and for comedy, and just to be there, for 12 hours a day with a musician touring. We're going to do something with Route 66. The anniversary is coming up in January, so we're going to send a couple of musicians out to. But just being there live, and you look at Netflix now. That's really, they spend a lot of money, trying to and doing very well with that. And we have the technology. He's been working this for 20 years, just sitting there. He's got the studio, we got this van, we got this platform. And so I'm going to all my friends and even people that I don't know, saying like, look, come with us, come play in the sandbox, create what you want for us. We just want to do it live now.
Is there a world where, obviously, this is the live streaming, the 5 days? You did it in July, is that right? Was it July, and it was a trip in Michigan? We wrote about this, and you think
we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
So I think there's room for doing that, having multiple versions of Destination Anything, actually.
Is there a world, John, where a touring comedian could monetize a tour that
Yes.
way, they with a relatively easy, kind of plug into the Zeam architecture?
That's a good question. What I always tempt these guys with and girls is that he invented the technology called Ad Sync that places ads throughout the day in all these local markets. So if a comic or a musician is going to be playing, we did it with the Beach Boys just to test out with a QR code, and we sold a lot of tickets at Jones Beach, I think it was. But he went and got 10 seconds here, 15 seconds here that were not being used. Yeah. So for free, so that's what we would do with the comics or the touring musicians as well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I can only imagine that this would be at a time when touring revenue is more important for performers than ever before. This would be like, oh my God, not leave not 1 second unmonetized.
Right, and it's a hassle to go promote. You have to do interviews, and so this way you could do a quick ad on your phone, and we put it to the local stations of wherever we're going next, and sell tickets that way.
Just the potential is really the wheels start to turn.
Yeah, so one of the things we did with Jeff Ross was we created one 30-second spot, because he's done the Take a Banana for the Ride tour on Broadway. And so we took it, we said, just shoot a fun ad, send it to us, and then, you can use AI or not use AI. I tend to try to not talk about necessarily, because I don't want to overplay the AI thing, but we wrote something that would take his ad, and I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the dreaded slate. We'll be back in a moment, enjoy this moment or whatever. Right. That's because the ad wasn't sold. And so what we did in the case there was our ad sync technology would then condense the ads. So, because at the end, when you see that slate, it's because there isn't an ad that fits that.
It feels like failure, honestly.
Right. So we wrote something that very quickly said, all right, grab the Jeff Ross ad, take it from a 30 to a 15 or a 15 down to 6 seconds, and then we placed it in there as well. And that actually proved very effective at increasing the fill rates for those ads, and you wouldn't see the slates.
How many engineers do you have to do to be able to do that on a local basis, that local targeting? The mind reels thinking about I'm sure some of it's automated, but just the architecture of making that happen, that's why your company is successful and has been around for 20 years.
So, I mean, in comparison to Amazon Web Services or one of those companies, we're tiny, but we have about 80 really technical people in Marion, Iowa, that are just writing code every day.
What's great is that if I come up with an idea, or someone that's working with us comes with an idea, he'll put 10 people on it the next. Speaking of Jimmy Kimmel, he's always wanted to do a fantasy football station or some sort of, and so we've been talking to Jimmy about it, and he put his guys on it, and we're in the process of hopefully doing that for Jimmy.
Oh, that could be fun. I'm glad. I think he could probably use a pick-me-up, so that's probably good. And by the way, was that a shot at the Browns in that in that clip where you point out this is this is Cincinnati, and that was football?
That was real. I didn't know.
Not a shot at the Browns.
Was it? I don't know. Is this a sports question she's asking?
Yeah, it was a sports question.
Let me ask you, are you, with your more original efforts, are you actively trying to promote the Zeam brand, or are you looking at like social as the kind of the vehicle to get your content out?
I mean, that's a nice inflection point that we're at today, is you kind of get the social piece for free, right? So
if your content travels.
You have people who have 40 million followers, 30 million, 10 million.
That doesn't hurt, yes.
Right, and so what we're trying to do is lead by example on the content side, so we can show what could be, leaning very heavily on live, pop-up live. I mean, the Beach Boys concert coming in that morning, into our Times Square studio, thanks to you, was really a pop-up live event. You texted me, in the wee hours of the morning and said, this is going to be a big event tomorrow.
Well, also Brian Wilson just passed away, so we sort of felt his spirit during that time as well.
What a great way to just to be able to pay tribute to somebody, and I'm sure just singing those songs was probably meaningful.
It was cathartic.
And is that archived? We can go find it. The archive, the concert is the live content is archived, so people can go back and find it if you miss it live.
Yeah, anything that runs through the system, becomes an on-demand asset. Recently, for Paramount Plus, we helped create a sync back to the top of the game or the start of the game kind of scratch technology. So that's where the world has to go, is if you joined it late, you ought to be able to sync back to the beginning of the show.
Are you able to tap in at all to the YouTube architecture? If something goes through YouTube, is that a problem for for the advertising that you're weaving in there?
Well, there's a couple of pieces there. YouTube TV.
I'm talking about just YouTube, just original model YouTube.
We basically have a standalone platform. We don't use anything related to YouTube, but we do actually provide some local signals to the YouTube TV, because that's what we're very, very good at, is getting the local broadcast signal and pushing it out to wherever it needs to go.
Right, and that, again, easy to say, harder to execute. I can remember 10 years ago when all that was launching, the idea of geo-targeting a station. That was a technical feat that had to be overcome, for sure.
We cleared the first ever rights for streaming any syndicated show at all. It was the Ellen Show in 2011, and I spent hours on end at Warner Brothers convincing the folks that I can keep it in market, in pattern, and only the viewers that would otherwise see it if they put up an antenna will see this over the stream. And that was the very first show to be streamed of any kind.
Wow, that's a good piece of trivia. John, as you go out into this great land of ours, do you feel like, we were talking a little bit earlier, but that there's so much talent out there. What do you find when you're sort of out there talking to people about what, in clubs and what people are talking about? What do you think that a service like this can do in terms of just putting a spotlight on talent that may be very far away from New York or LA or Chicago comedy clubs or any kind of performers? Do you feel like this could be a vehicle for discovery of talent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been finding so many talented people on Instagram. In fact, we replaced one of the drummers in the Beach Boys a couple of years ago. I found the guy on Instagram, and I have no problem DMing someone saying I'm a fan. I really like what you're doing. That happened with Matt Friend, who's a young.
And I have to believe people are like, this is not John.
Sometimes
Stamos.
they don't. Yeah.
It takes a minute to convince them. No, I really am John Stamos.
Yeah, that was with the Beach Boy guy. I DM'd him and said, hey, what are you doing this summer? And he said, "Is this really you?" And so I FaceTime. I said, "We're looking for a drummer for the Beach Boys." And he was, "Oh my God," went crazy. There's some young drummers that I sort of a mentor, not in the drumming world, but one of them is becoming very famous, and so he kind of asks me about that. And Matt Friend is a new one that I really am proud of. This kid, he's a young impressionist who does really well, and I think he'd be great on Zeam. And so I find more probably online than I do out in the world, but the talent is so incredible, and to reach out to someone and go, "Hey, you want to come over here and play in our sandbox and see what you got going over here?" It's a real. I've had so many mentors in my life. I started with Jack Klugman and Gary Marshall and Don Rickles, and so I find myself being put in that position and sort of a pay it forward position, really, and I'm just loving it. And now I have an avenue to go, come over here and do this with us, and come up with ideas. I'm sure, just watching this, hopefully, if anybody has any good ideas for us, we'll be out there. But there's just so much just sitting there to be taken advantage of in a good way.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like all your skills and your connections are coming into play in terms of being creative.
Well, 100%. Yeah, we've met with a lot of creative friends, and also, people in the business. We went over to Netflix and talked to them about what we're doing live and if we could be part of what they're doing. And we've met with a lot of agents and a lot of management companies, and everybody's very interested. They got to figure out, how can I fit into this world? And the more we get out there and pitch it, the more people are coming around going, what about this? What about that?
Well, the architecture of monetization, I'm sure, helps with those conversations. Let's close by a little crystal ball gazing. We'll start with Jack. Whether it's a platform or a technology or an application or a new frontier for Zeam, what are you excited about in the coming, let's say, 12, 18 months?
Well, I can tell you what we're working on, and I call it codename Ernestine. Remember Lily Tomlin played the switchboard operator?
Yes.
We are very, very focused on making streaming work like that. So any content creator...
One ringy-dingy?
Run one ringy-ding. We're not going to be as troublesome of slowing it down. We're going to make the connection inexpensive and fast, and we're going to be the Lily Tomlin, Ernestine character. So if you have content or a sports league or anything, because what slows streaming down is cost and complexity. If we can solve for those, we'll take any content, any league, whatever it is, pull it in, plug it in like Ernestine did, and make streaming easier.
That's great. Great image.
Google that later.
All right, John, Chief Innovation Officer, pressure's on. What's exciting you? What in the future is, what in the near future are you excited to get your arms around and start playing with?
One of the first things I said to him was, I would love to see Zeam as your home channel. You turn on the TV, instead of LG or whatever, Apple, it would be Zeam. And I want something that would curate what I watch, what my wife watches, what I watch with our kids, and not have to, sit there for 20 minutes on every platform and try to figure out, how you do it. And a half hour's gone by, and hell, I'll just go to sleep.
Then you wind up watching Full House reruns.
I do that a lot. But just to have a link, and it would just hit the show, go to Netflix, go to Apple, and I don't think anybody's doing that. So that's my dream, is to see it be, your home screen and your place where you start in the morning and the place where you end at night.
I have said for a long time, there is still an enormous opportunity in navigation. And we'll watch Zeam to see how you guys tackle that.
Sounds good.
Thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.